Ladies and gentlemen, I honestly take no pleasure or happiness in telling you that I worried about this, and I don't want to say I predicted this, but I talked about this a lot whenever I focused on this topic. New York Times, a GameStop evangelist's videos draw a regulator's attention. Keith Gill was an early endorser of GameStop on his YouTube channel, but a regulator in Massachusetts wants to know about his day job. This is a New York Times article. Couple hours back. Moonlighting under the name Roaring Kitty, Keith Gill became something of an online folk hero for his dedication to GameStop, the struggling video game retailer at the center of a trading frenzy that sent its share price into the stratosphere. I don't take pleasure in, and I'm not happy about this. This is something that concerned me and that worried me. And I swear to God, this is not something that I'm happy about. I don't care if you're a Biden supporter, if you voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, if you don't like me, because in 2016, a lot of people on Reddit didn't like me. I had an Ask Me Anything. It was like a train wreck. I told people Clinton would lose, that Trump would win, and it was like, a horror show. But I don't I cautioned and I said, this is probably going to take place. Media is probably going to spin this. You're going to first get the hit pieces from the New York Times and the Washington Post and others. You're going to get bad press. You're going to get Democrats wanting to investigate what Reddit Wall Street, the subreddit, was all about. You're going to get them going after individuals. I said this. Now, I hope and I pray Keith Gill, protects himself, has great attorneys, because he is now going to be the focus of Democrats in Congress, who essentially, and Tim Pool has talked about this, others have talked about this, are beholden to Wall Street. Elizabeth Warren is beholden to Wall Street. It doesn't seem that way. The marketing spin and the image that she presents, it's that she's she's tough against Wall Street. That might have been true about 6 years ago. Elizabeth Warren was actually tough on Wall Street about 6-7 years ago. I remember writing a Huffington Post article about Warren and how she was tough on Wall Street. Those days are long gone. And I worried that once a hedge fund lost billions, which a hedge fund did, and got bailed out by other hedge funds, and once this got the attention, one of the hedge funds, by the way, gave, $810,000 to Janet Yellen, President Biden's Secretary of the Treasury. I warned and I basically cautioned and I said, look, Democrats, see, Trump Republicans don't care about this. Establishment Republicans, never Trumpers, do. Democrats, whatever you want to call them, neoliberal, whatever, they do. AOC and Elizabeth Warren aren't progressives on this issue. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. We're on our way to 200,000 subscribers. You can go to hagoodman.com, read my writing in The Hill, the Huffington Post, Salon, the Jerusalem Post, the Federalist, the Daily Caller, the Roanoke Times. You can see my debates. Ladies and gentlemen, I was worried that this would happen. I want to read you this. They're now going after individuals. Keith Gill is awesome. He and the Redditors have done something profound and paradigm-changing. The retribution will not be awesome. See, now it's The Empire Strikes Back. Now it's, okay, Democrats are asking not only Robin Hood and others to testify, but individual Redditors. They're going to ask Keith Gill the following questions. Well, was there a concerted effort? Was it more than just you telling people to invest in GameStop specifically to hurt a hedge fund? They're going to ask this question because this is at the heart of, they didn't do anything illegal. They did what hedge funds do. But hedge funds hide behind, well, we're just looking at the market. We don't like this company. The company has poor fundamentals. The company is not making enough of a profit. So when we short a company, we're not doing it to artificially tank or hurt the company or its workers. We're just doing it because that's how the stock market runs. We follow the law. To the average investor, we all know what's going on. But the regulators are going to side with the companies that lost money. The Democrats are going to side with the companies that lost money. That's why they're getting Keith Gill. I worried about this, and I said this isn't going to end well. Keith Gill did nothing wrong, but they're going to spin this, or they're going to ask him questions to where in a court of law they can say, hey, wait a second. There was a concerted effort to manipulate a price specifically to harm another company. You might say, well, hedge funds do that all the time. Well, in a court of law, they say, well, we didn't do that. But if they message boards are dangerous. I exposed the absurd Q nonsense. I told the world it was dangerous 2 years ago in my debate with Jordan Sather. That's on my website. I was not only always opposed to it, I was always opposed and stating that it was the most ludicrous message board hoax that proved to be very, detrimental. I was saying that 2 years ago. I was also worried now that, Reddit's a message board. Nothing good Twitter is essentially a message board. I deleted my Twitter account 2 years ago, and you should do the same. That company is eventually going to tank because they banned President Trump. You have tech, Wall Street, Hollywood, intelligence officials. You think that apparatus is going to give Keith Gill a fair chance at defending what the subreddit did? Just the photo here in this New York Times article is not a flattering photo. It's like he's looking like this. That's what they do. I've had hit pieces written on me. You should see the hilarious hit pieces written on me. I'm always like, eh. Or there's this ominous cartoon of me. The Daily Beast wrote a hit piece on me simply because I was a Bernie Sanders supporter filled with inaccuracies and absurd nonsense that I could have sued them for. But it's like a cartoon of me, in this menacing face. It's hilarious. That's because I was a Bernie Sanders supporter. I'm a supporter of President Trump. Now, Ross Story wrote a hit piece on me when I was a Bernie supporter and a Trump supporter. But my point to you is this is what happens when they don't like what you did. When the Democratic Party doesn't like what you did, and the journalists beholden to the Democratic Party or the apparatus, they don't like you. You could be too far left, and we're seeing that now. We're seeing that. You could be a supporter of President Trump. They want you right in the middle, but their middle. But here, let me just read you this. But now a regulator in Massachusetts wants to know more about Mr. Gill, a registered securities broker, and his former day job as a financial wellness education director at an insurance company based in Boston. His day job could be YouTube. So he has a successful YouTube channel, I believe. So, see, again, but it's like hilarious the way, inspired in part by Mr. Gill's cheerleading, thousands of small investors pushed stock in GameStop to as high as $483 a share and made Mr. Gill fabulously rich on paper. A picture he posted last week on the Reddit Wall Street Bets forum showed his GameStop investment was worth $48 million, though his actual returns could not be independently verified. But Mr. Gill's former employer, MassMutual, has told securities regulators in Massachusetts that it was unaware. They were unaware. Don't you know? They were unaware that Mr. Gill had spent more than a year posting about GameStop on social media, online message boards. The insurer also told regulators that had it known about Mr. Gill's outside activities, it would have asked him to stop or possibly fired him. Oh my God. Oh my God. When the New York Times is running this type of article, and you have Democrats in the House, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, Elizabeth Warren in the Senate, wanting Redditors to testify, I said they're going to go after individual Redditors. They're going to try to say this was a concerted, manipulative, malicious effort to either harm hedge funds or to dupe investors or to manipulate a stock price. And there are laws that they can say, well, these laws were broken because hedge funds don't put their motivations on a message board. You understand? They don't say, oh, we can't stand them. We're going to show them. So, but the message board is like a window into intent. You remember when James Comey said, there was no intent to have a private server with top secret intel? No intent there. They're going to say that, and I hope that I'm wrong, but unfortunately, and I swear to God, I say this unfortunately, I'm not right about everything. People let me know that, but I'm right about a lot. And I stated that this is not going to end well for Redditors because you're going to have Democrats and establishment Republicans. I'm taking my partisan hat off. I am saying, not trying to be partisan because I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I support President Trump, first president to step foot in North Korea, allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever, signed an executive order combating anti-Semitism on college campuses, which is running rampant. Abraham Accords, peace between Israel, UAE, Bahrain, Morocco. He did a lot of great things. We had record low unemployment for most of President Trump's tenure. And the pandemic wasn't his fault. Go to the New York Times. The New York Times, you'll see the highest per capita rates and the greatest number of lives lost are in Democratic-run states, with New York and New Jersey leading every month. So, but that's not Trump's fault. Were there missteps? Of course there were. Every presidency has missteps. And I've talked about Trump's missteps. He should never have insulted NFL athletes. He should never have insulted LeBron James. He should never have said a lot of things that he said. But Trump Republicans don't care whether Reddit tanks a hedge fund. Okay? Trump Republicans do not care. So, all of Reddit, all of media, every message, when it was against Trump is not the problem. In many ways, his populist message helped the average person in a great many ways. Renegotiated NAFTA to the USMCA. But establishment Democrats and many progressives in Congress, like Elizabeth Warren, the wonderful progressive, Democrats now are going to have Keith Gill testify. That's all over now. You can look, New York Post, everything, Business Insider, they're all talking about this, that he's going to testify. I want him to be very careful because the entire planet is going to try to find out if there was a planned, strategic, concerted, manipulative, malicious effort to tank a company. To tank a hedge fund. Because that is against the law. From what I understand. I could be wrong. But if the hedge funds can actually, because who do you think Elizabeth Warren or Democrats are beholden to? Or who do you think they care about more? Who do you think Janet Yellen, Secretary of the Treasury, cares about more? Who do you think the SEC? The SEC is composed of all former Wall Street people. It's always, Republican or Democrat, it's always composed of former Wall Street people. Who do you think they care about? You think they care about Reddit? No. They care about the hedge funds. So they say, we're going to go after Robinhood and we're going to find out what's going on. At the end of the day, the hit pieces are right there. They're going to say, he's lost a lot of money. Redditors have lost a lot of money. And so anyway, let's just read this. Mass Mutual, officially known as Massachusetts Mutual Life Insurance Company, also informed regulators that Mr. Gill gave his notice on January 21st, but was technically still an employee of the firm and its securities and investment advisory arm. Okay. In particular, the Massachusetts regulator is investing. Just a question: why don't the New York Times or the Washington Post write these types of profiles, these types of negative profiles? This is an informative profile, but it's like, what's really going on here? It's actually quite a negative thing when you're looking at a profound, paradigm-changing moment in the stock market. The photo is off. He's like, they're talking about his employer. Who is this person? Why don't they do that with Robinhood, the CEO, or the top brass at brokerage firms, or Robinhood, or the hedge funds? Why don't they do that kind of expose? Because that's not what the New York Times does. Okay? The New York Times is a Democratic Party establishment, liberal Democrat publication. They're not going to do that. They're going to go after individual Redditors or in their exposés. And this is what I was worried about. In particular, the Massachusetts regulator is investigating whether Mr. Gill or MassMutual broke any rules. Okay, here we go. Licensed professionals have an obligation to inform their employers about outside activities. It's interesting, too, that MassMutual doesn't have a problem with Keith Gill, but apparently an investigator does. On Friday, Mr. Galvin's office sent a letter to MassMutual's general counsel seeking information about Mr. Gill's employment status and whether the company was aware of his outside activities promoting GameStop. Notice how they're not accusing him of any illegal activity, but they're saying there's a hint of impropriety here. They're not doing this to the hedge funds. The letter also sought details about the firm's process for identifying undisclosed business activities and for monitoring an employee's use of social media. Social media is a scourge. Twitter, Facebook. Okay, YouTube is not social media. It's a video-based platform that the difference between VHS and YouTube is the VHS player. And the computer or the cell phone. It's just a video-based platform. They say technically social media, but it's not really it's not a message board type. Even Facebook, Twitter, Reddit. These are message boards where context is missing and things are taken out of, context, and, people get into endless, arguments. I mean, Twitter's like a cauldron, this boiling pot of discontent. That's why I haven't had one for 2 years. I have a Twitter impersonator that's breaking the law, impersonating me, but he's hiding under a fake profile, like all the people on Twitter who hide under fake profiles. Amazon knows who this person is because he illegally shared my books on Amazon. But anyway, So it goes on to talk about how Mr. Gill, 34, did not respond to messages seeking comment. Good for him. He has been mostly silent other than speaking to the Wall Street Journal. In its article published on Friday, the Journal described Mr. Gill as having recently worked in marketing for MassMutual. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has also asked federal financial regulators, including the Securities and Exchange Commission and Federal Reserve, to attend a meeting about the GameStop flurry. She was given $810,000 from one of the hedge funds in all of this. That's a fact. The department said Wednesday. So the Securities and the Treasury Secretary. This is, ladies and gentlemen, Biden's America. And every good liberal on every social media message board platform spent their existence, spewing the most disdain and anger and resentment towards Trump. Oh, look at the monster. He's an orange menace. And oh my God. Look at him. Oh. At the end of the day, he was not the problem now, was he? It's been a couple of weeks now. And this would not happen. If you had a Republican Party that was completely run by President Trump, which almost completely run by President Trump, there was like some people were saying, oh yeah, Liz Cheney is they didn't vote to kick her off her leadership position. That shows that that Trump doesn't run the Republican Party. It's like, what? There were like 60-something Republicans that wanted to kick her off. And secondly, Republicans don't act that way. Neither do Democrats, by the way. One Democrat made the most horrendous statement. Can't even talk about it. Oh my God. But instead of a resolution that Ted Cruz wrote, they watered it down to, these, all horrendous statements are bad. She made a specific horrendous statement, but we're not going to get into that. Democrats it's always do as I say, not as I do. Outrage, but you know what? It's okay if we say something. And Trump is, really horrible person, but look who's going after Reddit now. And like I said, I'm not the only one talking about this. Everyone knows that the Democrats are going after Reddit. It's not Trump Republicans, but also the never-Trumpers are also going after them too. So it's the Republican and Democratic parties that are, teaming up with the SEC and Janet Yellen. Treasury Secretary Janet L. Yellen has also asked federal financial regulators, including the SEC and the Federal Reserve, to attend a meeting about the GameStop flurry, the department said Wednesday. The Federal Reserve, the SEC, and the Treasury Secretary. Are they going to get SEAL Team 6? Are they going to... A hedge fund almost goes under because of a bunch of Redditors, and it is, an all-points bulletin. And I said, this is not going to be good. And so the Financial Industry Regulator Authority, the securities industry main self-regulatory organization, says financial services professionals must avoid making, quote, listen, false, misleading claims, exaggerating statements, and material omissions on social media. Everybody on that subreddit needs to be careful, very careful. Talk to an attorney. FINRA's guidelines require brokers and other financial services firms to supervise the business-related content that employees post. So, Mr. Gill's Roaring Kitty videos did include a disclaimer saying investors should consult with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions, and, quote, should not treat any opinion expressed. Mr. Gill could have violated company rules if he did not receive permission for his posts on Reddit. Okay. So notice how MassMutual doesn't have a problem with Mr. Gill. This is not a good article. This is the type of thing that they do. You also have GameStop stock. Massachusetts Redditor Keith Gill lost $13 million in one day after stock plummeted. So Reddit trader behind GameStop rally says he lost $13 million in one day. So it's like, okay, Robinhood CEO is going to testify as well, but he's not getting the expose or the hit piece in the New York Times. Representative Maxine Waters wants Redditor Keith Gill behind GameStop frenzy to testify at hearing. So I wish Mr. Gill needs to be have the best lawyers possible, because they're going to use his testimony under oath against him. They're going to try to focus on this man and the entire Reddit subreddit, because they've probably already I hate this is really it's unfortunate, and it's like what I've been. This is why people voted for President Trump. This is why people don't vote Democrat or Republican. This is why Mitt Romney and will never become Republican nominee, and this is why people voted for Trump. You are not Trump would not care about this. He doesn't care about this. Ted Cruz doesn't care about this. Devin Nunes, Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, they don't care about this. The people who made this an issue were Democrats. And now you have the Treasury Secretary. The Secretary of the Treasury. What? What? Give me your thoughts below. Keith Gill, God bless him. I want him, I don't want anything, I want him to be safe, happy. I want all of the Redditors to be safe and happy. And I don't want anyone to lose money. I don't want the government to go after anybody. And I know that some people are going to say, you're paranoid. It's like, well, it's not. This has nothing to do with an irrational fear. This is just you tanked a hedge fund. So now there could be legal repercussions. Why? Because political parties side with Wall Street. They don't side with the average person. What Reddit was able to do was paradigm changing. They stood up to multi-billion-dollar corporations. That has now brought these congressional testimonies and the hit pieces in the New York Times, and it's only going to escalate from here, in my view, in terms of the public relations spin and potentially the SEC leveling charges against individual Redditors, and I hope that doesn't happen. I just want everyone on Reddit to be extremely, extremely safe and cautious and understand that with something paradigm changing comes repercussions from the establishment. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel.